me just 1 second here. Okay. Well, we might as well get started about now. Psychos, influence behavior, mother tree. Won't need that. Okay, review right. May not need that. So you left your. Okay. Okay, is it ready? Okay. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala khairul mursaleen. Muhammadin an-Nabi al-Ummah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ijma'in. Amma ba'd. يقول الله تعالى في القرآن الكريم إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما اللهم صل على سيدنا مولانا محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم. And he provides for him from sources he never could imagine. And if anyone puts his trust in Allah, sufficient is Allah for him. For Allah surely accomplishes his purpose. Verily, for all things has Allah appointed in due proportion. This is one of the kind of favorite ayats because it says, and he provide for him sources that he never could imagine. And sometimes the Quran and other translations, it uses the words that Allah provides you by avenues, by system, by ways that you could never imagine, you know. In other words, things will arrive at your situation, in your condition, to aid and assist you, and you never even thought of them. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows you, He knows your situation, so Allah provides for you by ways, method, and means that you never thought of. So that's why this Yusuf Ali translation, and he provides for him from sources he never could imagine. Other translations say that Allah help you from avenues, from ways, from possibilities that you never even thought of. And if anyone puts his trust in Allah, sufficient is Allah for him. For Allah will surely accomplish His purpose. Verily or truly Allah, for all things Allah has appointed in due proportion and just balance. So today I'm going to talk a little bit about our history, so that we won't think that we just floated here and we stumbled where we are now. Because there are things that are happening in the world, even just today and yesterday, that may alter or have some effect. It won't alter our mission, but sometimes you have allies, aiders, helpers, and assistants in positions. And sometimes you have people that wear the same clothes, speak the same language, and they're in positions to work against you because they have their own agenda. I don't know if you can remember last summer, during some of those Black Lives Matter. In fact, it was just last summer. This is June, so it was during that period. So some of our friends wanted us to appear on live broadcasts back in Iran. I don't know if you're, and they sent all that, they had to have it. Because they had an interpretation of things that was going on here in America that was different than ours. They hoped what they saw was happening was real. And we was trying to tell them, no, this is not, you can see, like right now, that was a year ago, where's it at? And it wasn't a year, it didn't take no year, it took a few weeks or months. Pretty soon it was like, oh, that never happened. Now remember, we went out and visited with the people, and our lectures, our talks were more or less on what could be done to make use out of the situation. That you could have teach-ins, training, education, on demonstrations, on what demonstrations do, on an agenda. Can you imagine all of those people out there, all of those hundreds and thousands of people all over America, and nothing happened? Nothing. So that means that you're dealing with an environment. When you understand those things, you have to have absorbed a lot of environmental training. Your environment has taught you a lot. That's some of the things that we're going to talk about today, and some of it we'll talk about will be on situational positioning. The Tao, this is from the Tao Te Ching. This is thousands of years old. A lot of the training things that we went through, if you remember 2009, we didn't print it out, but we printed out a face covering and a few. It was called psychological guerrilla warfare. A lot of those things in there came from things that I had studied of 50 years ago at that time. It was from Chairman Mao Zedong, and he was the icon of the liberation movements during that period, in the late 50s, especially during the 60s and the 70s, all up into the 80s and what have you. When I went to Algeria, a friend of mine gave me a 4-volume set of, it's in about 71, of Mao Zedong's writings. And I always kept volume 1 because the other volumes had interesting things in them, but it wasn't. Guerrilla warfare was some of the main writings, because in China they used mainly guerrilla warfare tactics. They used them against Chiang Kai-shek, who was the president of China at that time. They used them against the Japanese that invaded Manchuria in 1931 and changed the name to Manchukuo. Then in 1937, what they call the Rape of Nanking. This was one of the capitals of China at that time, and it was the Japanese treated it it was unbelievable. In fact, in those days, after that, we used to refer to the Japanese as the white man of Asia. In those other words, anyway, he's not like that now. But the militarists that took over, and they stretched out. There's a long story about the history. But the human being have certain needs and what have you. And there's a hierarchy, a pyramid of needs. And I'd like to read the lowest and most fundamental level are the basic physical needs for food, water, sleep, and what have you. If you look in management books, there's this pyramid of needs, Maslow's hierarchy. I liked it it came out in 65, but I started reading it in the early 70s, something like that, and I kind of liked it. The next level of the triangle contains our needs for safety and security. We need proper protection and shelter. So the number 3, love and belonging, is the next level in needs. To be loved and to belong to part of a group. That's why in the old days, the biggest punishment you could get was exile from the group. They used to kick people out of the tribe. That was the biggest punishment that they could get. 4th level of need is self-esteem. We strive towards situations that enhance our sense of worth, our sense of value. the desire to feel important. Self-actualization, the need to fulfill our top potential and to live at a high level of awareness of ourselves and our desire, is the top level. When we've reached the highest part of the triangle, the hierarchy, we have what's called a peak experience, or the feeling that signals our arrival at the highest level of motivation. Okay, what I'm going to go over is a lot of what we talked about years ago in the 2005s, 10s, 11s, and all that. Televised revolution, 2008. Historical epic, 2008. What is historical epic about? Historical epic is that we know the time, place, and circumstances we're living in at that time, and we have a good idea of who we are, what we're doing, and where we're trying to go. This is just a few years back, 2008. So we have all the tapes and all the seminars and everything all laid out. We was doing that then for a specific reason. In fact, 2008 was when a lot of fitness started in Oakland. 2008, this is the same time Abdul Malik left the community, and when he left, that was a signal for most of the other people. By the end of the year, it was only a few hangers along that were there, left there by the government, because the ones that left was the government. Everything there in Oakland was the government. Like, we'll just say 95% of what was happening here was the government. We've been knowing it all along. That's the way it is. That's part of situational positioning. In order for you to position yourself, you got to know where you are, and you have to have a pretty good idea where everyone else is. Right? That's what we call in some situational management, situational leadership. Right? So situational management, this is thousands of years old, but we have developed a whole new process of what we're dealing with, because these leadership and management principles of war and strategies of war are from thousands of years ago. And Chairman Mao, although he existed in the last century, he studied these too because he was Chinese. And when you study these, you'll see what he had been studying. But he have reference in all of his writings to ancient emperor so-and-so and, general so-and-so back thousands of years ago. But he had certain principles that he followed. One was strategic retreat. Strategic retreat is that you're fighting, let's say, the Japanese. And the Chinese had very good strategies. They was really getting whooped a lot. They was killing them by the millions. But they had some cases where the Yangtze River flowed through and it had cut a new channel and it flowed this way, right, to the ocean. So what they did was, with all of those Chinese, when the Japanese brought troops, I shouldn't stray, but I can't help it. In China, there was something called the Tanaka Plan. It was a Japanese foreign minister in 1924. He had a plan for China, the conquest of China, because Japan is a small island nation, right? But he said Japan is a small country that's well organized and well disciplined. But we don't have enough people, we don't have enough land, right, to move toward world conquest. So the Tanaka Plan in 1924 was to, when they invaded China in 1931, that was the plan. To build their world empire through their vision, through their discipline, off the backs of China. Right? They would conquer China. And the Japanese, of course, later on, they invaded all of China. But their problem is, China is big as the United States. is close to it in size, including Alaska. So before they made Alaska a state, China was technically bigger than the United States. But anyway, this Yangtze River flowing through China, they let the Japanese wanted to conquer China, but the Chinese said, what we'll do is we'll give up space for time. Space for time. So when the Japanese would come into a certain area, the Chinese would change the course of the Yangtze River back to its old way of flooding. You know what I mean? All of China, they just fill it up, and the water would go, and guess what it would do? Why? It would flood all the Japanese. They got all their tanks. They got all their troops pulling all them heavy guns. You just see them on videos. They have what they did. They flooded all their embankments. They flooded everything, right? And then they would go on about their business. Now the water would flood that area and it would flow around it, and then it would go back into its channel, maybe 100 miles downstream, maybe 200. What do they care? So the Chinese would flood. The Japanese had a strategy: build our world empire off the backs of Chinese. And so Chairman Mao said this. He said, Japan is a small country that's strong. China is a big country that's weak. Simple. You could see it in the Tao. So in that case, they had to use their weakness as strengths. It's simple. So they use their weakness as strengths. Their size, the number of people, right? They lost hundreds of millions of people. But that's one thing they had in abundance, is people, right? Okay, so now we have to get to the Tao of Masjid al-Islam, our strategic management patterns. We're not going to get lucky. The United States will not just flow away. So we have to be thinking, we have to be studying, and some of the lectures that we'll show you, Historical Epic, 2008. Historical Epic is telling you some of the same thing I'm telling you now. That there have been epics in history. There has been military epics in history, social epics in history, religious backed or led epics in history. They really happened. So we had to study all of those, no matter what idea you get from the media or how many people is here, don't pay attention to that. You see, we are who we are. It doesn't make no difference what they say we are, right? We are who we are. We have already done the stuff we're talking about today. We've already done that. We're evolving into another stage of activity right now. And everything seems to just be happening at the time we have chosen. But see, when you study Islam, it tells you, just like the ayat I read, that Allah will help you from avenues, from ways, from means that you never even thought of before. Allah will help you from ways you never thought of before. You never had no idea that you was going to get help, aid, and assistance coming from that direction. Okay, so now, one of the things that we had to develop, which technically during that stage, we've already developed it. It's a manual for Islamic movement. You know, manual, how to run this, how to make it work, right? We did that. We have done that. Okay? During our period. Grand strategy, it's possible. Possibility thinking. Grand strategy. That's where a lot of this comes from. But this comes from China thousands of years ago and during the last century. And Chairman Mao elevated it because he put a few new things in it on guerrilla warfare. The Tao Te Ching didn't have a lot on guerrilla warfare because the Chinese were never fighting a guerrilla war. They was fighting in those days, thousands of years ago. And you got to remember, China developed when the people was living in the caves of Europe. China was already popping firecrackers and doing everything. They was already on a roll. It's the oldest one of the oldest civilizations in the world. And it is the oldest continuous grand, scale. Like they had the Fertile Crescent and they had this, that, and other. But China is 4,000 or 5,000 years old. They say 5,000. And it's on an upsurge. An upsurge because they had to go through a period of, I don't know how I got on this subject, let me get back on it. The period of humiliation 100 years ago. This is the celebration of the Chinese Communist Party that was formed in 1921. So they're having big celebrations over there right now. People over here don't know it. And they're celebrating a lot of things that have happened in that 100 years. Okay, because they got a vision for the next 100 years. And happy to say, they've reached all their goals. They had a goal for 2025 that there would be no more poverty. Guess what? They done already knocked that over. That don't mean that ain't nobody poor. But can you imagine America, the great America, they're talking about injustice and this, that, and other in China. In China, you can walk down the street with money hanging out of your pocket and nobody will bother you. And nobody has to worry about, it's almost crime-free. Compared to here, compared to here, it is crime-free. And all the innovation, all the other things that people should do for a society, they're doing it. Because they don't have a Congress of idiots like they do here. I'm telling you, a Congress of idiots. Okay, I don't want to talk about these people. We're going to try to help them. We always wanted to help them. And if you think that we just started, see, everybody, they have been listening to what we've been talking about over the decades. We talked about the Mandela effect. Does anybody remember that? The Mandela effect. We talked about it. Here's something from 10 years ago. Declaration of Peace. They always talking about Declaration of War. I don't know if anybody remembers it. Declaration of Peace. That's what we're talking about here. Okay. East Oakland Azad. East Oakland Azad. Azad means liberated or free. Everybody in Oakland, it's 2011, this is 3 years after the fitness started, they're thinking, oh my God, look what's happening to poor East Oakland. That ain't true. That stuff is happening, but as we read along, you'll figure out that you don't let other people control or manage your life. You control it. Let's see. Heed me by calculating the advantages and reinforce them by directing outwardly. Those who direct follow the advantages and adjust their formula. Those who strategize use the Tao of paradox. Thus, when able to appear unable. When employed, they appear useless. This is deception. The management of deception. You walk with a crutch, oh, I can't walk because I'm, psychological, it makes the guy feel like he can't lose, When close, they appear distant. You can find the same kind of writings in Najul Balagha when Imam Ali tells the people about a liar. He says a liar makes things that are near look way off, right? And the things that are near, he makes them, things that are far off, he makes them look real close. Oh, we're going to get some money tomorrow, and so everybody's all cheered up. But freedom, woo-hoo, that's way off, but freedom is right around the corner because there's certain areas been liberated, but he ain't going to tell you because he want to make things that are very near look like they are impossible to get there. It's a long way off, so you'll give up. And he make things that are impossible and far off look, oh, they right around the corner. All you got to do is buck dance a little bit with boss man, boy, he'll fix you up. That's what they do, right? The Negroes, that's exactly what they do. They lure through advantages and take control through confusion. I don't know if I have the CD here, but it's called Luring Deep. That is, that you draw the enemy into your trap. It's called lure in deep, and you lure them in through various mechanisms. We've used all of those mechanisms. We still use them right now. But we're evolving. See, evolution means we can't stay where we are because the world is not staying where it is. The world is moving at breakneck speed, right? And it's changing so fast. It's not changing, but things are getting worse and worse and worse, right? Now you got to remember scriptural language. This is not the first time this happened, but when this is different time. Now it's things that humanity and life would not survive on earth as we know it if these things keep going. Right? If they keep melting the ice, it'll look like Waterworld after a while. Yeah, it will. You know. If people will make the smoke and that nice air we see out there, it may be a little smoky, but it ain't nothing compared to what it could be. And the oceans, anyway. So, the Tower of Paradox means that you have to, in situational positioning, situational management, situational leadership, right? You have to adjust some things. When complete, they appear to prepare. When forceful, they appear evasive. When angry, they appear to submit. When proud, they appear to be humble. When comfortable, they appear to toil. When attacked, they appear separated. In other words, they fool you into attacking them and they're fully united. And they might do like Arabs used to do in the old days. They would break out running. They'd go up and they'd fight these big Roman or Byzantium armies that was heavy laden. Can you imagine them shields that they carried, them doggone things? And the helmets. All that stuff is made out of metal. Then they get them in a hot desert, around that desert. And they carrying all of that stuff. And the Arabs don't carry all that stuff. They got horses and everything. So they come up and woo, 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 yeah, da, 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 da. Then they break out running. And you run after them. Can you imagine how tired you're going to get chasing them? And they own horses and all of that. And up ahead, the dust, you can imagine the dust is going everywhere. They going up and they fanning around. And all of a sudden, they look up. This was a standard tactic. Everybody should have, after the 10th time, they should have known to watch some arrows. Boy, they're going to do this. They never learned. The dummies kept on chasing them. And they would go way up there, and then they would estimate how far they are, and then they would start fanning out around around the people. Pretty soon, they got them surrounded. And tired, too. They tired. Can you imagine all that stuff they carrying? Running and chasing. Just a spear weighed a half a ton, Anyway. So the paradox is to fool people. To fool people. Now we have better than the Chinese. We know, we studied our old people, the old Negro. The Negro was slick. Why? Because he had to use what he had, and he had less than the Chinese generals had fighting each other. Right? He had less. So he's got to be smarter, because he ain't got nothing. So he's got to soothe old boss man. If he want to get something, he got to smooth the old boss man Don't worry. So this stuff about appearing humble and appearing, oh, you just melt into the environment. Oh, boss man. Oh, boss man, you a good white man, boss man. They don't know that, but I know you's a good white man. And you good because you good. It ain't that. And so now, you know them old mules I got ain't plowing with nothing. And you got that new tractor, 1950 John Deere tractor. And you got a 1950 Chevy truck. And I got mules, Old John, Old Fox, they had names, all them big old mules. And because I used to, I could sit up on them when my father was plowing G-Haul. But the next year, my brother, who was 19, was plowing on a tractor. And my father was using Boss Man, Big Boss Man, the owner of the whole town. His 1950 Chevrolet truck, right? Did he have a license? I don't think he even needed a license in Arkansas in 1950. See, the people didn't have all that paperwork. I'm born in 1945, and my birth certificate, February 22nd is when I was born, but the doctor filled out it says on my birth certificate, born to, some weeks ago, it's March the 2nd or something like that. Because who was born in everybody now is born in a hospital. There's a doctor there and all of that. Ain't nobody, I didn't even knew nobody was born in a hospital. I had to look at here. I think my niece, that was first one born in California, she was born in a hospital. I don't know nobody else born in no hospital that was my age. Black? They didn't even have birth certificates. Look, not to change the subject, but when I got my first passport, like in 1970, you didn't need all of these IDs and stuff. You could take somebody with you to the passport office, and they hold up their hand, they swear, yeah, he was born. That's what you had. That anybody read all the paper? You didn't have to have, ain't nobody had them. White folks didn't have them. Negroes definitely didn't have them, like birth certificates. That's why all the old white people a few years ago, that was in the 80s and 90s, they couldn't get a lot of stuff because they didn't have birth certificates. And the people said, you can't that ain't no way to treat nobody. So they came up with some laws for them. Because when they was born in Oklahoma and Mississippi and all, they had no, he was born out in the country. And a doctor, who was that? First of all, he didn't know, he couldn't help you much anyway, Okay, let's speed up. So, the 9 variations in tactics are based on the advantages and disadvantages that occur during conflict. A strategy unfolds as the strategy unfolds. Advantages give a strategy credibility, but the disadvantages of the opponent give the strategy its edge. The disadvantages of the opponent give the strategy its edge. Brilliant leadership have not only the ability to recognize their opponent's disadvantages, their disorder, confusion, weariness, lack of interest, unpreparedness, and miscalculations, but they are able to vary the strategy to capitalize on them. Sun Tzus or Lao Tzus believe that once a challenge has been executed, skillful leaders must vary their tactics. They must not allow a controlled strategy to inhibit creative counter movement, nor should commands from those at a distance interfere with spontaneous maneuverings in the immediate situation. He insisted that one's tactics must change along with the situation, and furthermore, that some situations will develop and should not be confronted at all. Some things happen, you don't want to confront them. Does anybody remember the videos that I gave with blood streaming down my head, and my sons and his crew, they were there, and you could tell by the dialogue that they wanted to do something right then. And I was all yelling at them, stand down. If you can't, stay out of my business. I know what I'm doing. I got this covered. And I was firm on that, right? Anybody remember that? Hold it. Y'all stay out of my business. Because they're looking at me and they're thinking about their environment. And, hey, that's my dad. Niggas can't do that. You can't, I would have felt the same way. If somebody did that to my father, there's no way he could have told me not to do nothing. He couldn't have. I wouldn't have listened. That's why I was speaking so firm with them. Stay out of this business. You don't want to mess nothing up. That was the idea. You stay out of this. Sun Tzus warned that even if a leader has the skill and excellence to practice the variations that are character flaws common to leaders that can bring defeat. These flaws include recklessness, excessive caution, a short temper, fastidiousness, that is kind of funny acting, fastidious, and deep personal attachments. You can't be attached to much. That includes family, friends, money, of course, all of that. You can't be attached to it. If you're lucky, you would have outgrown all of those things, because very few people are zahids, zuhud, when they're non-attached. People are attached. They're attached to their house, they're attached to their car, they're attached to their salary, they're attached to their wife, they're attached to everything. Everybody that I know is attached. I don't know nobody unattached but me. And this is out of necessary. This is out of decades of training. Decades of training, because they thought what they did in Oakland was going to help them, was going to push it right where they wanted. Why? They had studied me. They had turned my children into tattletales, where they was they didn't do it because they wanted to, but they doing it because they was dope fiends and they've been going to prison for 20 years and they don't want to go anymore. So I could imagine my youngest son telling them that my father don't put up with certain type of things. Why? Because in 1983, when Negroes was messing with me in the Masjid, one Negro, or one Iranian and one white man. Well, I just took my weights off the bar and I was beating them. Because they messing with me in the masjid. And they're talking to each other about me right in front of me. Yeah, he's paranoid. I thought, oh yeah? Strip that bar off and start whooping their behind. Oh, stop. I said, what? Ain't nobody doing nothing to you. You paranoid. Oh. Now, I'm not hitting them on the head, but I'm hitting them with an iron bar on the shoulders and where it won't break nothing, but it'll sure. They didn't come back with no more of that. And then it happened one more time. The guy, maybe a year later gonna come with some stuff. So they was used to that. That's 1983. So the information that my sons are giving boss man, because my son is having a fact in front of the masjid, 11, 12, 13, something like that. And I'm coaching. Spread your legs out. And then he's fighting a guy his age. And he's doing good. He's a tough guy. And finally, don't get that nigga no break. Choke that nigga, squeeze that. I'm just coaching, from the sidelines. I can't get in it because they. So that was my attitude. That's 1983. So in 2003, 5, or 13, I'm a different person. They don't know that because they're talking to my ex-wife, right? And they talking about what they remember. They remember a few months where I did get a little arrogant. And I got a picture of that, way long. I don't know if I ever showed it to anybody. But I looked at it, I said, that is a mean nigga that. Got lucky. Nobody ever did nothing to me at that time. But if somebody would have did something at that time, this is years back, I would have reacted in an inhumane way. In the meantime, I looked at that and I changed. But my wife was always telling the kids, no, your dad is this, your dad is that. So when they related information to the police draw the idea, if you want to get him mad, if you want to get him off balance, do that. That's why Mukhtar is a dummy. He wasn't paying attention to Imam Musa 1995, 1990, 1995, 2000. He wasn't paying attention. When he did that at that time, that was 30 years. I had already been past that. But they didn't know because they hadn't upgraded their information, and they was getting information from people that had studied me and remembered me 30 years before. And they had left out zuhud, they had left out evolutionary processes in Islam, they left all of that out. You know why? Because even they, since they had nothing to come up and happen, they didn't know I had evolved from that. They didn't really know that I was down with sabr, as-sabru wa nifsul iman. And remember, probably even in the tape, I'm yelling at them, I got this covered. I know what I'm doing. Stay out of this, right? That's what I was saying. It's evolution. That's why, I don't want to call them dummies, but the people are still calling here now. I didn't bring my phone, but there's phone calls on my phone right now. Because they don't know what else to do. From the dummies. And I don't want to call them dummies, but it's easy for you to recognize what your enemy thinks about you by what he does. Our enemy right here are like decades behind, at least we'll just say 2 decades. Because they ain't come up with nothing new. They haven't, the system. That's a sign that we've been wearing they behind out all of this time. You got to remember, like if we had people here around us, we would have to feed them information. Like Baba Kloon, I said, oh man, you know, I bet you next time I go out there, they're gonna have sold the property on MacArthur. So the property, they don't have no right to sell it. They got to forge it. They done forged. They trapped. But I can't go out there and tell them, Mukhtar, I want you to sell this big piece of property from 8101 MacArthur Boulevard to 8121. I want you to sell it. And he sold it. Of course, he ain't got the money because his physical situation hasn't changed. So he would have got at least, I don't know, if the taxes was $4,000, $5,000 on the sale, they had to sell it for $800,000, $1 million, or something way up there, right? That's what they had to sell it for. I mean, the tax on the sale, you know, like you make a sale, so anyway. So Baba Kloon, I would tell him, yeah, man, they're going to sell my property out there, you know. And then I'd repeat it again and repeat it again. Pretty soon, oh, that's what he's worried about. Ring, ring, ring. So he called right out there. Baba Kloon's right here. He called right out there and tell him, man, y'all got another piece of property down there? Yeah. Oh, what is it? He said, that's the same property, Imam Musa fixed it up, half of it, new carpet, new tiles, new everything. We have programs down there sometime. It took me years to fix it up. So, but when I go back out there, they had a deed. The deed has been changed to somebody else who's running the homeless shelter there. Okay, they can't do that because he don't have the right to. And I can file those papers anytime. Another thing is, you have to realize that in war, you have to give up some things. In guerrilla warfare, you can't fight. Psychological guerrilla warfare is in a way like physical guerrilla warfare. So you can't waste all of your troops holding this territory sometime that you've captured, right? So sometimes it's strategic retreat. You retreat in order to advance, in other words. So you retreat in order to trap them, to get them to go and sell the property. They have broken all of their own laws, and they had no right to do it, and there it is. I did that on purpose because I knew the situation. The situation is Baba Kloon is here. Baba Kloon is the major, informer here at that time. So I just, and then in another case, I was trying to get the measurement on certain things, and so I was talking to another friend of mine, another brother. He's up somewhere. Nice old fella. He actually is older than I am. So he inherited the leadership of one of the nice groups, and so I was saying, well, how did this happen? How did that happen? So we just talking. He said, yeah. When we started the so-called cab business or something or other, I used to drive the cab all the time, and I made myself available to the leadership. That's how I became second in command. I was available all the time. I would take him here, take him there, which is true. Anybody that's in a Negro organization or a white one that's doing what we do, they're going to have an employment shortage. So if you want to get in, all you got to do is come in and hang in the masjid all the day. Pretty soon you'll be calling the adhan and da-da-da-da-da. No problem. That's normal. Everywhere. That's normal. Right? Because the poor imam that maybe started the show, he can't run the whole show. Right? So just said, well, when the guy said, yeah, I just made myself available, so every time somebody needed to go somewhere, I would take them, I would do that, and then everything just got quiet. Because the same thing he was doing to me. He'd come here, and he stopped coming here. He stopped coming here. I don't know for what reason. Maybe he said he's sick. That don't make no difference to me. I'm just telling you that you have to have sense. And you got to be moseying around. Sometime moseying around means you can't wear your sharp suit. I got sense. Well, good. Sometimes you got to wear a clown suit. I ain't got no sense. But you got a ton of it. See, this thing about disguise is sometimes you have to play the role of the humiliatee. You got to let people sometime humiliate you. An arrogant person can't do that. They can't do it, right? Some leaders can't do that. That's a flaw in their leadership. Okay. The other thing about evolution, we have something here on evolution means that you leave the door to evolution open so that you can evolve and grow and develop as you move forward. That's what we've been doing here. Okay, so a lot of this is way back in history, but I bring all of this old stuff to remind you of what we have already done. We've already done that. We are now in a new phase of development, but we don't leave all of that out because we're moving into a new phase. Because evolution, you don't leave out evolve and you leave out that and keep evolving. No, you build off of, right, what you've evolved from. So your advantages, your self-determination, your concentration, and creativity are your weapons in overcoming inner conflicts. You got to have certain abilities and you have to use them. When you are transcending a difficult environment, guard against resentful, negative attitudes. Oh, this battle is so terrible. Oh, nobody loves me. There's some old stuff. You can come up with anything. Everybody is against me. They will block your progress. Keep your temper in check and your criticism to yourself. And develop some emotional indifference. Does anybody know what I'm trying to say? Emotional indifference. Emotional indifference. That you could see things that would make you normally sad, but you're indifferent to it. At that time, you can't do anything about it. You have to be detached. You can't do anything about it at that time. No, you can't. You want to, but you can't. So you have to build up your indifference. I have a plan now that when we get ready, I'm going to be able to fix that. That person right there may be hurt from it and they may never recover. But I'm going to build a process in this movement that will cease to happen at a certain time. But right now, you got to be indifferent. Why? Because you can't allow all the circumstantial situations to draw you in, to use up your time in your mind, in your space. Right. That's part of movement, especially situational stuff. You don't allow. Let's see what situational strategies are. Generally, in executing an artful strategy, the leader is directed by a ruler. The force is gathered and their numbers assembled. In obstructed situations, do not take shelter. In intersecting situations, gather to negotiate. In isolated situations, do not linger. In surrounded situations, there must be a scheme. In desperate situations, there must be a challenge. There are paths that should not be taken. There are paths that should not be taken. Paths that sell out the people, that sell out the movement, you can't do that. But paths that you could have been preparing for years, because this may be your fifth go-round with Negroes, and you know that they're not moving. In fact, they're getting you more and more surrounded and more isolated. So they think. That's what they think. But remember, you can tell. Remember we gave a talk called White Man on the Line? It was just like going fishing. When you pull it, you know that the fish is on the line, right? So it's the same thing with Mukhtar, Khadija, Abdul Malik, Hashim Alauddin, all of them. I could mention other names of people here. They're all on the line. They work for the Europeans. They have a problem of not respecting people that come from them because they still have their head buried in the sand. And no matter how low Boss Man may have been flying up there, and Boss Man may be 2 feet above crashing into the sea. But the good old time Negro, he stick with Boss Man, I'm with you all the way. And you could have out-escaped Houdini. You could have ran circles around Boss Man, and you could have slapped him around with one hand tied behind you and nobody on your side. But the Negro have been trained. You got to have patience with that. You got to say, what's wrong with y'all, man? I tell you. You know, on the phone you can have, there's a movie that was on yesterday. I said, I'm going to watch it. I saw it in 1972, Faye Dunaway and somebody else. Then down in South America, they call it Ship of Fools, but they call this Ship of something else. It was about a bunch of Jews. This was a real incident because you can see it on the History Channel and stuff like that. It was 937 Jews, and Nazis had a little scheme they was doing. So they let all these Jews get on this ship to go, and then they had a thing that they was going to let them disembark in Cuba. In a way, they didn't let them disembark in Cuba, except one or two little children. And then when they came to the United States, the Coast Guard pulled the ship up and said, you can't touch the United States. Finally, the ship went all the way over, and they let it disembark in Denmark or Sweden or one of them. But the only thing is the Nazis took over those countries a few months later. So out of the 937, 600 of those people died in the concentration camp. But it was some scenes that make you understand something about people in strange situations. Of course, there was some people that wanted to help them. There was other people that was undercover, that was actually Jews living in Cuba, you know, that was prostitutes, but they were still Jews. And they might have hustled up some money to give some of them some, all that kind of stuff going. But the thing that you recognize in that, they had a German lady singing a song, and the Nazis was on board watching everybody. When they started singing that song, all the Jews, German Jews, got quiet and started crying. And even the Nazis said, they're all good Germans. The Jews. I was in a movie in East Africa, How the West Was Won. Remember the Dr. John Branyan? Doc went to the movie, and there's another young guy from Philadelphia. He's a senior citizen now, but he was young. Shoot, he's as old as I am almost. Shoot, I wasn't but 20-something. Anyway, Doc was a real American. When we was watching that movie, How the West Was Won, Doc was having, so I asked the guy, Jimmy, that's his name, it's supposed to be his name, he's probably police too. But anyway, he said, man, Doc just, the movie, that Americanism, just like the Jews, the U.S. government is after Doc, put him back in jail. And he's crying because how the West was won. Of course, he wasn't sad about the Indians getting killed or nothing like that, right? But it was what he, like the Flyers, remember the Flyers, the Aviators and all them guys? They had a thing, the white man made a thing, White and Negro Fights. I don't know if anybody ever seen that. It's some world with some propaganda film by the American government. Boy, you ought to see it. You thought you knew black history? Man, they talk about Crispus Attucks. That's what our history book said, was just he the one stood up in Boston. They got 11 Negroes on the, I don't know if anybody saw, the white man got a statue with 11 Negroes that died when Crispus Attucks, somewhere around there, right? And Negroes ain't got that. So they got Negroes here today that want evolved with us because they have something in them about, I don't know, the white man takes stuff out, you don't know what he took. So you don't know what to put back. You think it's self-esteem or something. We was calling it the Mandela effect. Now, in Mandela's case, it was wisdom. It was hikmah what he was doing. He said, the army, well, they still got the army, right? They still got the Air Force. And we don't have, so maybe he was supposed to ease them down, calm them down, then flip back a few years later and said, well, we would like to have our property, so we're going to take half of it back now. You know what I mean? Let them keep some for a little bit, and maybe take the rest. Or just let them keep 25% of what they have. And it goes right. It was their property, and the white man stole it. They never got to that. But the Mandela effect was that it's something like what we talk about now. Would you turn the heat, the cool, is it cold in here or cool? It's just right? Just push it up there, just a little bit, just a pinch. But anyway, the point I'm trying to make is we have never been just a happy-go-lucky or defeated type of group. We have been working on this stuff all our life. When we came back to America in the early 70s, we came back to do this type of thing. And we're doing it. We don't have it don't make no difference what anybody thinks or what they got up there. That doesn't make a difference. Because, like the guy said, know yourself, know your enemy. 1,000 battles, 1,000 victories. Okay. And these situational strategies, we're not going to allow crackpots to make us lose our self-control and our focus and our discipline. We're just not going to do it. They don't even get close. That's what I'm saying about now. Nobody even gets close. Because the more that happens in the world, the more it clarifies, the situation. And I'll try to speed up. Combining advantages and disadvantages. Leaders who do not understand the disadvantages or advantages of the 9 variations, despite knowledge of the areas and positions, cannot gain advantage in the situation. In a controlled strategy, those who do not know the theory of the 9 variations, despite knowledge of the 5 advantages of the stuff, cannot succeed employing the others. Therefore, those who can speculate cleverly are certain to combine the advantages and disadvantages. Now, it's talking about a warrior or a leader that don't know, haven't even had a chance to study warfare in a big way. But he has some natural leadership capability. Therefore, those who can speculate cleverly are certain to combine the advantages and disadvantages. If you can speculate in a discrete way, you can figure out all the advantages and disadvantages of a situation. That's why we started with that ayat about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and let's see where it's at here. Basically, Allah will help you from avenues that you never thought about. This is basically what. Or send you aid and assistance down a street that you didn't even know was there. That's why some use the word avenues. And he provides for him from sources he never could imagine. And if anyone puts his trust in Allah, sufficient is Allah for him, for Allah will surely accomplish his purpose. Verily, for all things has Allah appointed due proportion. Okay, we're not out in the woods running around laughing and talking right now. The world is accelerating. The decline of America is accelerating so fast, it's off the charts. Does everybody kind of maybe feel like that's halfway true? The decline of America, disintegration of America has already, it may be at the point of no return. But economically, you can look at America and you can see the decline and set in. It's to loan out so much money that eventually inflation's going to catch up. So in fact, instead of getting rid of property, we're going to acquire property in a hurry. You know why? Because when inflation kick in, the only thing that whatever you buy it at, right? Even if it deflates, you still have it. There's currency that's inflating so fast around the world that they can't put any more zeros on the money. You seen some of that? Okay. I don't know if anybody been watching, but when I go to the store and buy certain things, like some things have inflated, but other things have. A few months ago, a pound of margarine, that good margarine, probably not halal, but kosher margarine, because Giant is a kosher type, you know. So I use that type of margarine, or the other one is twice as expensive, because it makes the food taste better. A few months back, it was $1.99. Now it's $1.49. It's a big jump in a few months. Okay. Property values, everything else. And how are people going to live? How? How are people going to live? Where are they going to get the money? What if they have money in the bank? They make it now for the last several years that they don't want you to put money in the bank. The bank used to take care of all your stuff free if you had an account, right? Now they charge you, plus they almost, why? Because the government, the whatever they call that national bank, big old bank, they giving out money for 0. What is it? They're giving it out free. Federal Reserve. Federal Reserve is giving out money free, and they used to get your money to keep in their bank, and they used to loan that to charge interest to other people. But now the government is giving them money directly, and they can loan that money, therefore they don't need your money. That's why they're charging you for everything. They almost don't want your money, right? The Federal Reserve is giving them, way more money than you. So They're hooking it up so you have to spend your money. Have anybody noticed that? All their schemes now, you got to spend your money. You got to invest your money in this big scheme called America. A lot of people don't understand why would we make decisions that is counter to what we've been talking about for years. Technically, it's not counter. The only reason is people haven't been paying much attention. We've been standing outside hollering about the best thing, speech, call people to Allah, work righteous deeds, and certain people gonna be your friends. Warm and fuzzy friends. What is that? 10 years old? It's at least 10 years old. That's at least 10 years old. Declaration of peace? It's 10 years old too. Declaration of peace. Not declaration of war, but declaration of peace. So we have been dealing with all this stuff all along. Ascending mission. The mission that we had a while back, this must be 2008. The mission is bigger right there. It's ascending. Historical change. The world is changing. It's 2008 again. Historical accuracy. If you think we're accurate now, we've been the same accurate all along. This is probably 2007. 2007? Accuracy. Historical accuracy. You think we say something today, then it come out tomorrow, you say, oh, that guy got a crystal ball. We've been doing that all along. Historical accuracy on historical situations. And everybody that's not fallen into a certain approach, look what happened to them. We have friends overseas that stuck us in the back. So they stuck us in the back. We ain't cried about it. They stuck us in the back. They invite people around that they know they got people on TV. Their biggest TV Negro personality is the biggest tattletale in the United States. And when I get busted upside the head, they have them marching up and down the street talking about, Hashibi, Hashibi, Hashibi. And I'm sitting over there, I can't hardly talk. Remember that? No problem. A few months later, right here, their foreign minister give a talk, supposed to be an interview amongst them, and they get it all on tape, and it's saying, why that man, the greatest Iranian in world history, millions of people come out for Qasem Soleimani. He did me this way, he did me that way, right? And they made me stay here instead of taking me to Syria and talk about the rebellion. They made me stay here with my white friends. What's her name? Medea. They're good. So they already knew. You can see they already know what's happening. So you like them, you keep them. But you're not going to come here and talk and now he's mad. Now, they're on the outs and we don't know. Maybe our friends that might be in. But definitely, what does it mean? You got 95% of ability is stickability. You can't have a temporary program. You got to stick with your stuff over a long period of time. And there are some things that are changeable, but not ethics. The ethics of warfare and the ethics of behavior, they're permanent fixtures. So, Our ethics are the same, but planning is some planning program. There's difference, there's strategy, then there's tactics. Strategy is the big show. Tactics is the day-to-day what you're going to do. Right? Here's one called, it looks like counter-encirclement. That means those people that thought they had us surrounded, this is then 11 years ago. We done re-encircled them. And then in a few years ago, it's re-encircled. We done counter-encircled and counter-encircled them. Not them doing it to us. They already got us encircled. Well, so what's, hey, you don't have to, hey, welcome. Bienvenido. Welcome to the counter-encircle Masjid al-Islam program. Yeah. So everyone is welcome. What's bothering them is called foreign policy arrogance. And our Negro friends have it. No matter how much you teach on anticipation, they still think some of the people struggle a little. Well, why did I said, because you're colored. It's your only problem. You're colored. Well, okay, let's tell it. You're black. And that's your only problem. If you was a white man with authority, they would jump off a bridge for you. Yes, they would. They'd jump off a bridge. Easy. System analyst. Okay, so people, what we're saying is, so if people come up to you and say, those niggas are lucky, that nigga is lucky, they just stumble upon this. They can't say that because historical accuracy all the time, right? Historical accuracy. You can stumble up on something by accident every now and then, right? You could stumble up and find a $5 bill, but if every time you walk out of your house or every time you go around the corner you done found a pot of gold or $50 or $100, that means something else is going on, right? Something else is going on. System analysts. This is stuff spies do. They analyze systems, right? They analyze that. And I don't care how accurate you are, the people are going to look at you. That's one of the things that you have to deal with. When I say you, that means the people that wants to be a part of movement. Other people have what's called learned helplessness. Anybody know what that is? Well, okay. I know everybody know what it is, but I just say, for instance, they do a test with a dog, and they put a dog in a cage. Then they electrocute the cage, and they turn electricity up to the dog, jump up and run around, try to get out of the cage. Then they turn it down. Then they turn it up again, except more. He goes bananas, as white folks say. He just kind of get out of there. But if he touched the walls, they electrocute him. If he touched the other wall, it electrocute him. If he jump up to the top, it electrocutes him. So there's no escape. And then they do it again until, you know what? Pretty soon the dog just lays there. And he's being electrocuted and he don't do nothing. That's called learned helplessness. They've trained him that there's nothing you can do to get out of this cage. So you might as well save your energy. He defecates, salivates, he loses all body control. They do that to human beings all the time. There's no way to escape. We've kept you niggas plantationized for all these decades. You ain't going nowhere. No escape, sorry. You're not going anywhere. So niggas lay down, give up their humanhood, and it's called learned helplessness. They've trained the people to be helpless. There's other kind of things like that they use, little stuff they use. They've been using a long time. So whatever you think about us and our community, we drive by all of that. I'm sorry, none of it works. Learn helplessness. Oh, of course, you got to remember now, we play games with Boss Man. Let's see what we might do to him. We do a lot of stuff. Therefore, who can speculate cleverly? Anticipating the opponent. Those who bend other leaders do so by means of disadvantage. Those who tax other leaders do so by means of activity. Those who hurry other leaders do so by means of disadvantages. Thus, in executing artful strategy, rather than presuming they will not come, we lie in wait for them for their appearance. Rather than presuming they will not attack, we appear in a place they cannot attack. Hey, so you foresee, you force the attack. Other people might be waiting for them to do something. You ain't gonna wait for them to do nothing. You're gonna put yourself in a position they either can't see you, they don't know you're there, and they run around, well, we're gonna go find out, let's send out some spies. You send some spies, you let the two spies see you, they hiding over there. Well, there's 5 or 10 people hiding over there. So they attack you, then you re-attack them. So this is a serious battle we're dealing with. But we have to upgrade all that stuff from thousands of years ago. We've done that here. It doesn't make no difference whether they like it or not, whether they believe it or not. All of this has already been done. It's already done. We've already done that. White man on the line, Negroes on the line, they calling me, trying to make me mad. I don't answer. The less I answer, the more they call. Yeah, they're calling to make me feel like, hey, you guys are, I don't want to call them crazy, but they're like, before, they're on such a low level. You got to look at, let's say, Mukhtar and Khadijah. They're lower than Hashim and Abdul Malik and them on the level. They gave them a job that nobody want. Abdul Malik wouldn't have done this because it would have showed his hand. He retired. He quit in April of 2008, right? And he's the only one that took back his bail. He said, I'm going to fast for 3 days. Mukhtar and them ain't did nothing. All the rest of the people in California, they just popped up and said goodbye. No, they didn't even say goodbye. It's just it. All right. Suppose we would have followed them up 10, 15 years ago. Oh, why you don't like us no more? We say, you knock yourself out. See you later. Right? We haven't moved a muscle on that stuff since those days. And all we've done here and there and everywhere is continue to set Baba Kloon. Baba Kloon had to play dead or something. I don't know. Excuse me for talking. But I mean, Allah knows best. But I know you can sandbag so long that people will actually find a way to get out of it. Yeah, they will. You'll force them to do that. And you know nothing has really happened because you know how the offspring, Ibn Kloons, how they act. You know there ain't nothing happened. Because the way they act is so rotten it wouldn't be according to, you know what I mean? There's something, maybe it did happen, but I don't think so. No, indeed, and it ain't the first time. So with patience, stickability, you can ride the Negroes till they get on their horse and ride out of town. They say, I done had enough. I can't stand no more. You can make niggas give up. You can make them give up. Or let's say we have made them. And there's plenty of crews. They can only stay around a little while. And after they get tired of acting a fool and you laughing at them, see, they're laughing at you and you're laughing at them. But your laugh is different, man. I'm trying to tell you. All I'm trying to say is that there's, as men, which we have families and we have responsibilities. So it might lead to something like, who are you going to trust? Boss man? Yeah, trust boss. Okay. So we have an emergency plan. We all join with Boss Man's program and get in there, and it might help. It's a safeguard help. Yeah, it's, because people don't look at history. I don't care who you're looking at. If they got a people that they can doodle on anytime they want, and it's okay, what do you think when the ship go down? You think Boss Man gonna jump off the ship, or he gonna throw you and your children overboard? Just who's going first? So you have to put up a stop. Say, I ain't taking no chances, Boss Man. That's all we're saying. Just simple. Everybody want to do it anyway, right? It's right along with what everybody said. There's nothing illegal about it. And get in the system now and let them pay you to go to school before they start smelling something and don't like it. Because remember, these people are so guilty, even if you try to help them. We've been trying to do this all the time. The peace treaty, all that crap. They don't want they don't want it. It's not only me, they're going to do the same thing with you. They're going to say, oh, my nice little children, the hell with them. Little niggas as far as I'm concerned. And they would throw their own children overboard before they throw themselves overboard. A few of them wouldn't. Now, what do you think about the Negro? What's America going to look like soon? What happens when the money crash? If it's only one or two things could happen, you could kind of, say, well, we're going to make it through this and we've patched this up. But what about if there's nothing to hold on to? What about if the family structure is thrown away? Boys with boys, girls with girls, everybody with everybody, and anybody in between, and that's gone. That's already gone, and it's going faster than you can think. What about if they had the society where the male was the dominant and the female was da-da-da-da-da? Suppose they turn it around, and for the last 20 years, there's been more female opening businesses than males. What about stuff like that? That means the white people doing the same thing to themselves that they did to the niggas. Who all goes to work downtown? Niggas, men or white girls? Who's always in the penitentiary? A few Negro women. But all the niggas is in jail. What I'm saying is, this little join up for a purpose and a goal to safeguard your life and your family's life, and actually, just in case, to save America, where it goes down to a certain level, but there's something there that's not burned to the ground, and that you have protected the society enough where everybody haven't slaughtered each other, and you got something to build on. Suppose you leave boss man alone. So, boss man is going to get the dumb white man, the dumb Negroes to fight each other. And after that, they're going to have the dumb Mexicans and the dumb whoever they are, right? You're going to have them all fight each other. Mexican mafia, La Familia, they kill each other. In prisons right now, they both Mexicans, by the thousands. They hate each other. I mean, and they all Mexicans. I said, boy, y'all got it bad as niggas. You got it as bad as niggas. The white man stole your country from you and run you crazy. It's not the educated ones, you know what I mean. The ones that we'll be working with, it's the dumb ones. But who outweighs and has the dumb ones? Anyway, is it more intelligent Negroes or is it more dumb Negroes? Just a question. Now you can answer it. Just keep it to yourself. You don't have to raise your hand or nothing, right? The Negro was here, drive the little Benz or something. He must have had a case. Had a little Moroccan lady he was married to. He used to sit here in the class. I don't know if you remember him. He used to sit here all the time a few years ago. And he told me, Imam Musa, I wouldn't have taken what you took out there and da-da-da-da-da. I said, I don't care what you were taking. I said, that's why ain't no Negroes running nothing. Because soon as the white man sick one Negro on another day, the Negroes fighting each other. So there's no Negro mafia. Does the white man know what he was doing? Said, we made alcohol illegal and the white folks got a mafia and them Italians are selling fruits and now they millionaires and running everything. Casinos in Vegas, right? We're not gonna give niggas no chance like that. Niggas and Mexicans, no, we're not gonna do it. That was our goal in South America. That was our goal in Oakland. To have black structured syndicated organization. And that's why you gotta go, nigga. You stay here, we're gonna burn your behind. So I said, goodbye, boss, fine. It's all right with me. I'll see you later. Right? I'm just telling you. You think it's bad now? Just wait a little bit. Who goes first? Whoever they threw overboard, was it Ayub or something? They threw him over, he got ate up by the fish. Not in the fish, just that. Right? Jonah. They threw, Eunice. They had drawn straws to see what they was going to do, at least as the Bible said anyway. But they didn't jump overboard. They throwed him overboard. The bad luck wasn't coming from them, it was coming from him, right? Now, what happens when they blame anything for anybody in America? Who do they blame? Let's just go back and see. So the violence is because of the niggas. And we got to shoot them, or else they'll mess up our beautiful society. They're making us do that. Who would want to kill niggas? No. We have to shoot them. And we try to shoot them efficiently so they die right away. We don't want them laid out for months dying. We want to finish them off. But we have to because they're making us do it. It's their fault, right? It's their fault. It's the niggas' fault. Well, I'll be doggone. And then the white lady said, well, I thought I was pulling out, what is it, a little taser gun? And it was a pistol. Oh, my God, I shot the nigga. I didn't tase him. The lady trying to fix herself up. They're going to do all of that dumb stuff. That's why we have to get there. You want to stop forest fires, you got to get more niggas joining. You want to stop all of this stuff, or good white folks. We got to insinuate ourselves in every structure that they have, because otherwise you're going to depend on them, to save your life. Well, you can if you like. Hey, history that showed me, I probably don't know much about it. Okay, 5 weaknesses in leaders. Leaders may have 5 weaknesses. Overtly reckless, they can be destroyed. Overtly cautious, they can be captured. Quickly angered can be ridiculed. They make you mad, that's right, and then whoop you. Very fastidious can be humiliated. Everything got to be just right. Fastidious, it's got to be just perfect. Particular about this here thing. Deeply attached can be harassed. Okay. When we had to buy property and stuff around here and build it up, I lived upstairs over there. That was nice living over there too, on A Street. Upstairs, you can't stand up much, but you can stand. If you get right in the middle, you can stand up. That's where we lived. When we came over here, we lived back there. It's 11 feet by 18, something like that. And we lived downstairs. We walked on that ladder there, and we stayed upstairs. Myself, my wife at the time, and my daughter, and our granddaughter that was from Philadelphia. We stayed right back there. Right back there. Then, when we moved over there, we lived downstairs. All water comes in from downstairs. Nobody else have any problem. Like right now, I live downstairs in the house. Okay, everything comes in downstairs. Nobody upstairs even knows nothing goes wrong. They don't have any idea. But if it rained too hard, I just stand up. If anything like that happens, and I did it on purpose, that's what I do. I'm grown. But the thing is about attachments. Everybody else is attached. I'm sorry, I'm not attached to it. And them cars, they can keep them. If they don't fix them cars, I'm going to be walking next week. Right away. Yeah. They can meet me at the bus stop or the thing. I don't need them because I interpreted certain things that we have to, what did we call it? Sleep on the bridge. The same thing. That's our sleep under the bridge. I don't have to ride the bus to California. I don't have to go to California on a plane or nothing. Shoot, I can, if I want to, I can hitchhike. I don't have to do nothing. And I'm already prepared for that. That's what, That's what's happening. Anyway, we're going to read a few quick ones and call it a day. At a time of confrontation, situational positioning is a skilled leader's most formidable strategic maneuver. Lao Tzu's believed that every situation and its potential transformations could be analyzed so that clever positioning should capture the advantage. He described the 6 positions that may be dictated by any situation: smooth, entangled, indecisive, narrow, obstructed, and distant, and explained tactical maneuvers appropriate for each. What that means is, well, I'll read some of it. Smooth, entangled, indecisive, narrow, obstructed, and distant. And each position can block your progress. In order to transcend your environment or to reform your relationship to it, you must situate yourself cleverly within the positions where you find yourself. So we found ourselves in a situation. Other people were not prepared to get here. Some of our leaders did certain things, and some people believe they did it because they felt trapped and they couldn't get out of it, so they sent themselves to prison. That'll happen. That'll happen. People do that. If they feel helpless. One of our dear brothers told me in 1983, everybody here is the police. So if he told me that in 1983, how you feel in 1993 or 2000, right? Feel trapped. And everything that he thought about, the niggas did that. Why would you remove someone from a position and they're not doing anything just to hurt their feelings? And everybody be involved, the girls, except maybe the son. So you can't look at all of this and say, hey, I'm just going to get lucky maybe. I don't know what it is. You got to be buckled down. Form a new relationship with your environment. We form new relationships all along. Evolving, remember we talked about evolution? Everything you see right here has been evolving. And now we're here, and we've evolved to this, and they got people that, for some reason, they didn't want to do that, they didn't want to do this, they didn't want to revolutionize, and I don't know about that, that might be dangerous or something, I don't know what to say. So we ain't worried about it. All we can handle is what Allah give us. Okay. We talked about white folks on the line and niggas on the line. You may not believe it, but you can hook up boss man on the line to the point, on your line, that you can feel him. Every time you want him to do something, you can pull it and he'll swing around a little bit. You can do that. The reason it's not done more is because the Negro doesn't have confidence in himself. And he thinks boss man might know everything. If boss man know everything, how the hell is this stuff like it is, right? Boss man is basically stupid. He is stupid to do stuff, to have people sitting in front of him telling them every day, boss, that's going to happen, this, and it all happens. And he said, I'm going to find a way out. There's a way to escape. And a lot of people who was at Hitler said the same thing. The Führer gonna come up with a super duper something other and get us out of this. Despite any advantage over the opponent, we do not move first. We lure with a retreat, causing the opponent to partially retreat. A confrontation then will be advantageous. This is a double retreat. He figured you retreat, I retreat. It's not a retreat. For us, it's strategic retreat. It's retreat to come back. It's retreat to go to a stronger position. It's okay what he think. It's okay what the people think. The other thing is about responsibility. There's one thing in what was that in the old Godfather movie when what's the name was telling his son. Marlon Brando was telling Michael Corleone. He said, he said, women can be careless, men can't. So you can't be careless. And at that time, that's 72 when it come out, it made a little sense. You got to think about your poor little kids jumping up and down and hollering, and you looking at them and can't do nothing. You think, boss, that's a new situation in the world? It's not new. It's damn near normal. Whether it's the people in Burma and all of them places, that's normal. That they had a stable situation and all of a sudden it's totally unstable and ain't nobody doing nothing about it. Whether it's Yemen, whether it's Lebanon, whether it's the 200th year of the boycott on Iran, right? They all looking. And what they say, we'll help you, Iran. Them white folks ain't did nothing. They just swam around and now they done blamed it back on Iran. The white folks have said, you sign this, we're going to be with you. Right? Okay, you can trust them all you want. I'm sorry. Hey. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Really, 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 really sorry. I'm not going for it. You can go for it. They can go for it. I guess I'll close 2007. Continuous transformation. You can't stay the same. You got to upgrade. Mandela approach. Navy Yard shooting. Remember they blamed it all on the Negro? The Negro was telling the FBI, man, I feel something. The stuff I feel they talking to me. Oh, go on, take a couple of aspirins. So they knew he was going to shoot up everybody at the Navy Yard because he told them. And go ahead and shoot them. Order of battle. Let's see. I'll close out. Psych out Zionists. Boy, we keep the Zionists mad. I don't care what you say. We keep the Zionists mad. Don't keep them mad. They need to be mad. Arsenal, kindness, optimism, and humor. Kindness, optimism, and humor. That's our saving for. Because see, the government try to make you mad, or they try to make you sad, or they do all kind of stuff. Revolution of Islamic movement, evolution of Islamic movement in North America, management style of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Stalingrad to Oakland. Stalingrad to Oakland, that's a good one. They never expected this. Stalingrad to Oakland, well, y'all know what it means. 5 out of 6 Germans that was killed during World War II was killed by Russians. But all of you think D-Day was a big day, right? D-Day, right? The Allied forces landed and they did a little bit to Germans, but they didn't. They're not the ones who whooped the Germans. The Russians whooped the Germans. And the Russians lost 27 million people, something like that, right? 27 million. No, that's a few people. That is a few people that they lost. And ever since we was a kid till I learned about Stalingrad, I thought the Americans won World War II. Right? That's what they kept saying. And then they come to find out it was the Russians did it. Yeah, the Russians actually, 5 out of 6 Germans killed in World War II was killed by Russians. So that means if you take the French and the English and all the other allies together, they killed 1 German per 5. And they say they won the war. I'm telling you, you want to trust him, trust your wife, children with them boys. Boy, they lie. Mubashir, 7/14/2006. That's about Lebanon. We'll make some copies of the 6th and the 14th, whatever it is, those, and you can see what we said about them. The same thing we said about this. The exact same thing we've said about everything else. So, dear believers, that's about it, and we hope we made a little sense. Psych out, post-American Empire, Imam Jamil Alameen, and my favorite one, designed fitna, where you design your own fitna. That's big. Because nobody wants fitna, right? Who wants fitna? Me. I love it. You know why? Because it's just a fitna. You're going to prove a case? Design fitna. You want help, aid, and assist? Design fitna. You can do it. You know why nobody else have it? Because they don't have they don't try. They just sit there and let boss man start all the fitna for them. And they respond to boss man's fitna. Instead of starting their own fitna that they control, right? And they have people respond to their fitna. No. Okay. I had a good feeling about a lot of this stuff. I believe we're gonna, something is headed our way. This is a new time. It's a new era. Everything is changing. They haven't been able to crush Iran, although they've tried. So they said, okay, we'll just let you get a little air. If they don't let them get a little air, then they will have a totally independent economy. You have the Russians and you have the Chinese and you have Iranians. You have a lot of people that are ready to start their own currency. You ain't never seen no crash. When the world pulls off the U.S. economy, and you got to remember, everybody knows that. When they pull off the American currency, it'll be, do you know how many pounds the British pound used to be worth? $5. Now it's worth $1 or something. Yep. In reverse. Yeah.
It seems to be in the American psyche that what you're talking about really happens over there. Even because I was just reading something maybe this morning, and it just made reference to the seas protected America from war.
Huh?
The seas
Oh, definitely. Yeah, yeah.
take that, so it's like America takes that for granted. That only the American psyche is, we can't be touched, or America can't be touched. And so that works into the environment, and then it can be used to make sure fitness stays over there.
No, see, the thing about money is different. And the thing about those wars, World War I, World War II, when they had, it protected America. Yeah, 3,000 miles one way and 7 or 8 the other way. So it was okay. But with currency, that's not with destabilization, that's not it. Also, the world is smaller now. It used to take us just 25 years ago. We couldn't get news from Iran. If I wanted to give a lecture on a subject that was, when people talk about something, right, like today, the people are talking about Iran and the election. Okay, if we was dependent on news coming from Iran 25 years ago, we had to wait for Tehran Times to come in the mail. If I had a lecture tomorrow, I had to ascertain what the election means. And I had to go off of the historical stuff that the U.S. always did. They always lie about us. They say, oh, only half of the people came out. But half the people is more than come out. And they got people dying like flies in Iran from coronavirus. Right? And for that, that's a good turnout for that. For the economy being like it is, that's a great turnout. You know what I mean? It's a super turnout. Okay. So we had to wait for a long time before that news, but now you have that news the next day. So anything that happens in the world, it's an instantaneous response. America haven't been able to avoid none of the stuff that goes on overseas. The internal stuff that's happening in America, America is spreading it to everybody. Black Lives Matter, they got Black Lives Matter or Brown Lives, they got them all overseas now. Other people are using that idea, saying our lives matter too, okay? America's word is nothing like what it's never been nothing to us. But to other people, America's word is not worth a dime. America's money won't be worth a dime. Okay, so that's the way it looks. And there's nothing they can do about it. They don't have any gold. And they keep printing more money. That guarantees that, and now they didn't just, when they said, take off your clothes, first they take off a little piece. And after a while, they just take them all off. That's what happened with the money. Remember, we're not going to give out no more handouts. We're not going to help nobody with nothing. Pretty soon, well, we're just 2 trillion or 3 trillion, then we'll do that. Then we need so many more trillions, trillions of dollars. $1 trillion, what's that, 1,000 billion? That's $1,000 billion, a trillion. And they giving away several $1 trillion, and plus that's why Babylon was bad, like the U.S. The Bible says it fell in one day, but it just seemed like that. Wasn't one day, it was over generations. It collapsed. And America is borrowing more money and inflating more money, and ain't nobody got no job. And the people, they talking about, we need another 7-8 million people to work. They say, well, I ain't working. I wasn't getting paid nothing. I'm getting more money for po' boy, unemployment, than I was getting working. I'm gonna draw all till you throw me off. I'm gonna stay right there. Why would I work? Right? Why would anybody work? Okay. So those things are sealed into I don't know any way America could escape. That's all I have to say. Are there any questions or any comments about anything?
Someone said, we were sold out. We haven't done anything after Elijah Salam, Amun Ra. I don't know what that is.
Amun Ra, the Egyptian god. That's okay. Don't worry. What else he say?
That's it. Yeah, that's all he said.
We haven't did anything since.
We were sold out. We haven't done anything after Elijah Salam, Amun Ra.
Amun Ra, that's the Egyptian. Okay. How you doing? That's all I got to say. It ain't nothing. Yeah. But we would like for somebody to comment on what we've been talking about. The whole world is in a situation, and we're part of this world. So we would like people to comment, at least make sense when you. Oh, okay, that's all right.
We are trying to find solutions, and that's the issue. Whatever people are listening to, it's not helping them come up with some concrete solutions that that are above just the individual.
Well, we're gonna give it one more week or so and patch stuff, do little stuff around here. Then we're gonna start visiting around here. I just ride the bus. I'll go to universities and see how they're doing. I just have a good time. I haven't been around like that in a long time. And it'd be good to get around folks. And I think we're still super accurate on everything. I don't think we didn't miss nothing. But there's nothing like human contact. And that's what the thing they do with isolation. They try to isolate. It's a long story. So there's no more questions or comments? Okay. Does anybody here have any questions or comments? No questions, no comments. Then alhamdulillah, everything is clear. أقول قولي هذا واستغفر